So in my last video, I made a joke about how I want my next video to be on the How I Met Your Mother finale, because as we all know, it's one of the shakier finales in sitcom history, just due to the fact that the entire show was supposed to be about how Ted meets the kid's mom, yet when they finally meet, they kill her off instantly and replace her with Robin, which I'm assuming at the time was like a crowd favorite, but to this day, I personally believe that most How I Met Your Mother viewers would much rather see Robin get together with Barney because they just seem like a perfect pair. But whatever, I'm not going to talk about it today because I was going to talk about the finale, but I just think it's very obvious. We all know it was one of those moments in TV where they just want everyone to be happy. They want to please everyone, and it doesn't work out. But upon rewatching the show for the sake of this video, I noticed there's something much more interesting to be said about Lily. Lily has a very, very interesting character, and I want to talk about that. But before I continue, I think I need to make a disclaimer. I understand that there's like a difference between, there's a fine line between, being patronizing and being critical, and I by no means wish to cross that line. So please just take everything I say as like a bored human being, an average viewer, rewatching shows that probably weren't meant for my generation or weren't even meant to be watched at this time, and just, wanting to have a chat about it. So that's all there is to it. Anyways, let's get back to the topic at hand. So I believe that most stories, whether they're contemporary or classic, whether they're made for the screen or for shows or for books, usually have this one character that acts as the moral compass of the group. This character is sort of like a bridge between the viewer and the characters making decisions in the show. This character tells us or shows us what's right and what's wrong, and advises other people and just like keeps the story going. I think a good example of this would be from the mom in Modern Family. I think she's a perfect example, not just because she's very wise and is like a moral compass in the show, but just because she's flawed as well. Like during the entirety of the sitcom, we watch her make mistakes, and it just makes us feel less judged, and it makes her more relatable. But I think that the writers of How I Met Your Mother initially wanted Lily to be this moral compass. I just don't think they did it right. And I'm going to talk about that today. So here's why I think that the writers initially wanted Lily to be the moral compass of the show. In the first season, right when we start off, Lily is one of the more put together characters. She comes off as very nice, very compassionate. She's one of the only people in a stable long-term relationship in a show that's like almost purely dedicated to relationships. So yeah, she's got that going for her. She's very compassionate. She's a kindergarten teacher and all that. But that's where it ends. Let's make an example before we go on. So in the first season, in season 1, episode 18, Nothing Good Happens After 2 a.m., there's a scene, or there's this entire plot where Ted is about to cheat on his long-distance girlfriend, Victoria, with Robin. And Lily keeps calling Ted and being like, no, don't do this. Like, you shouldn't do this. This is wrong. You're going to hurt both of them. Like, you shouldn't do this. And in the entirety of the first season, we constantly see other characters going to Lily for advice. And this isn't just this season. In the entirety of the show, we see characters go to Lily for advice. And we see her act as sort of like the mom of the group, the person who knows what's right and what's wrong. Yet, as the show progresses, these sort of like credits that we give to Lily fade away, and it turns out she's just not that very likable, in my opinion, and here's why. So I believe that, like I said, all moral compasses, all characters get to have flaws and make mistakes, and that's what makes them relatable. But I think there's a time and a place for it. I think if you make that mistake too early on in the show, before we've formed, like, we as viewers have formed that sort of like emotional connection or emotional bond with the character, it won't be as redeemable, and we won't continue to root for them and love them. And I think that's exactly where the writers of How I Met Your Mother dropped the ball. So within the first season, Lily is not a main character. Yeah, she's up there with everyone else, but we don't really see a lot of stories about her. We only really talk about her, see her when we're trying to figure out everyone else's relationships, or when she's trying to move the plot forward. Yet at the end of the first season, which is season 1, episode 22, episode named Come On, Lily abandons Marshall, her 9-year-old partner, to like fly off somewhere, I think to Chicago, to pursue her art dreams and like, you know, kind of like experience whatever she feels like she's missed out on in the past 9 years. And that's just like a very, very, very dark move on her end, because it's sort of like she abandons Marshall, she breaks his heart, she kind of ruins the whole group. It like sets off the balance of everything, and it's just strange because it's way too early for this character to be doing this. At that point, I don't think anyone was emotionally invested in Lily. So when she does these actions, you just kind of think, oh, that she's a terrible person. She's hurting everyone else around her. She's, doing these things that have consequences, but she's not paying for them. So I wasn't really rooting for Lily when she did this. I just thought she was a horrible person. And then in the second season, when she comes back, we sort of see how her actions made everyone else feel, and how she was so very selfish about it, and doesn't really understand that she's, hurt other people. For example, we have the Grinch episode where we see that when she left, Marshall was a wreck, obviously, and Ted was trying to comfort him and used a bad word, which they substituted for Grinch, like he used a bad word to describe her, and she gets so angry and like takes away, it's just like a very immature, childish move. She takes away all the Christmas decorations she's put up for Marshall and goes back to her own apartment super pissed off, which is just hilarious because, again, you're taking it out on your partner when your fight is with someone else. So constantly we keep seeing Lily make these like self-centered, selfish decisions, being super immature, and it's just not very redeemable because it happened too soon. It was too early for us to form this like connection with Lily and root for her. There's another episode that like really, and I'm going chronologically. I'm going through the episodes chronologically. There is an episode called Aldrin Justice in season 2, episode 6. I think this is another one of those times where the writers really wanted to like bring home the fact that Lily is the moral compass, she's a queen of justice or whatever, and it just doesn't work. So in Aldrin Justice, we realize that Lily has her own form of karma. She has these practices where if someone's misbehaving or doing something she doesn't like or is being mean, she'll like take something away from them. She'll do it herself. She'll take it upon herself to do that. And like, sort of practices that involve karma and stuff like that. And it's just, she doesn't win in that episode. That episode just shows us how childish and immature she is, as if she's dealing with kindergartners all the time, but you're dealing with grown-ups right now. And it's just like, again, I think that the writers wanted to show us like, oh, she really cares about justice or whatever, she's the moral compass, but she's not, because she just doesn't look very good in that episode. And these sort of like annoying characteristics just get more and more the more you go into the show. There's another episode that really caught my eye. It's after Robin and Barney get together at the end of season 4, and then during the 5th season they're together. I think it's the first episode of this 5th season, called Definitions. It's when Robin and Barney are together, but they've yet to have like the talk to figure out where their relationship is and where it's going or whatever. And the whole group is sort of like pushing them to have this conversation. And what Lily does is she locks them up in a room. She takes off the doorknob, locks them in a room, and tells them that she won't let them leave unless they come up with a relationship statement that she agrees with. And that is just so messed up. Like, first of all, the fact that you would lock 2 people in a room, 2 adults, to like do something for their own benefit, that's really messed up. But the fact that she says, I need to approve of this relationship statement, otherwise I won't let you leave the room, that is just like so wrong. Like, it just shows how like manipulative and deceiving Lily is, and how self-centered she is, and she thinks she's the queen of relationships, whereas a few seasons back, she's the person who's abandoned her fiance to like run off and like run away to a different city. Again, something we don't notice, I'm going back a little bit, but when she abandoned her entire friend group and like ran off, something that we notice constantly is how everyone else had to deal with those consequences except for Lily. I mean, she deals with them a little bit, but not as much as, they get back together very soon after. Like, obviously, Marshall's broken, Barney's broken, Ted's broken. Barney, that's really interesting. I remember that there's an episode where we flash back to when Lily had ran off, and Barney flies to, I think it's Chicago, I'm not sure, flies there and asks her to come back. And Barney is the most unsympathetic character in sitcom history. So the fact that this like hurt him to the point where he needs to like bring her back is just hilarious to me. Yet Lily just doesn't get how bad her actions were. Finally, in season 5, episode 18, and this is where I was just like, I don't want to watch this anymore. I watched until season 7, and this was a rewatch. I've watched the show before, but I didn't remember a lot of it. It was like kind of like an outline. But I watched till the end of season 7, I think, and I was just like, I'm not doing this anymore. It's too much for me. But in season 5, episode 18, Say Cheese, it's Lily's birthday. She's being so annoying the entire day. It's like her 32nd birthday, but she's acting like a 17-year-old, and it's just really she's just very unlikable. And she goes on and on about how she doesn't like when Ted brings random girls to like big life events and like takes pictures, like the girls are in the picture, and like it ruins her memory book or whatever. And then she reveals the fact that for the past like 9-10 years that Ted and Lily have been friends, she has taken it upon herself to manipulatively ruin 7 of Ted's relationships behind his back without ever telling him, because she felt like his partner at the time wasn't fit for their friend group in the future when they're all old and cute and like sitting on a porch playing bridge or whatever. And it's so unbelievable, like the fact that this girl has ruined 7 relationships just by manipulating. And we see this all the time. Like she ruined, in her own words, Robin and Ted's relationship. She kind of ruined Barney and Robin's relationship. She's just going around ruining people's relationships, and it's really messed up. And I think something that was interesting is that maybe after like 10 years of friendship in a super tight-knit group, it doesn't make sense, but it's like more okay to have a strong opinion on who your best friend is dating. But one of the relationships that she's broken up and she mentions dates back to like when they were still in college. So that means they've only known each other for like a year. So this girl has been dating someone's roommate for a year and has like this entire future planned out with this guy and his roommate, and doesn't like a girl. Oh God. Doesn't like a girl that he's dating. So she takes it upon herself to break them up. Like that is so messed up. That is so manipulative. And yeah, and even by the end of the 7th season, which is where I stopped watching, they're still driving in the fact that Lily's supposed to be the moral compass and super compassionate, whatever, but she's just such a bad character. She's got nothing redeemable about her. Like within her relationship, first of all, I feel like Marshall is so unnecessary to this story. He's just there to like counteract Lily, I guess. Like they're just a pair. Like in the episodes where Lily had left, Marshall made no sense. And like his character is just like it doesn't add anything to the story. And I honestly believe that the entire story is just showing Marshall being a victim in a toxic relationship with Lily, because there are points where it makes you want to pull your hair out. Like, first of all, you abandon this guy and then you come back and he takes you back. She's super rude in front of Marshall's parents. Like the whole like painting thing, the whole pursuing artsy dreams thing, she like apparently doesn't paint very well, and like only dogs like her paintings. But Marshall is like still super supportive, like making her a website and everything. And then as the seasons go on, we see a bunch of times where Lily, like there's this one episode, I think it was in the 7th season, where Lily is like, I hate the corporate monster you've turned into. And Marshall is like, he keeps trying to say sorry and be like, well, I still love you. Like, I'm just doing this for our family and for you. I want to spoil you and our kids later on. And it's so sad because she's judging Marshall for becoming like a corporate monster. Yet, the fact of the matter is that earlier on, we've seen that Lily has a huge amount of credit card debt. And the only reason Marshall agrees to the first job as a corporate monster is to be able to pay off Lily's debt. So it's just insane that this girl keeps like being so mean to Marshall, and like everyone else too. She's just very self-centered in general. That's more or less what I've got to say about Lily. I just thought that the writers were trying to portray a moral compass and they didn't do it right, and there's so many ways to do it right, so it just bothered me. Generally, I didn't find the show that funny. Like, it's very slow paced, and the actors don't do that great of a job. I think the only character that I liked was Barney, which is hilarious because Barney is like goes against everything I believe in. He's like a terrible human being, but I call it the Michael syndrome, Michael from The Office. It's when a character is like really ignorant and like just the worst, but the show acknowledges the fact that this guy is an idiot, so it's okay to be an idiot. Like, for example, in The Office, Michael is super ignorant and annoying, but we still root for him. We still love him because the other characters are constantly showing us that they understand that he's an idiot. Like, they're not a fan of his comedy or whatever. Also, on that Barney thing, I think Neil Patrick Harris does an incredible job of adding to the script. I think he really truly elevates the character and just like does this like charming guy that you is a horrible person again, but you want to keep watching. So I think that's one of my only likable characters in the show. Robin is fine. I don't know. She's kind of bland. Ted, as a main character, is just the worst. Like, he just gives us nothing. But I think something super interesting and witty that the writers did, which is kind of like a loophole for any flaw that Ted has, is the fact that the entire story is being told by Ted. So we never know what's right and what's wrong, but because Ted's telling the story, we don't have to know what's right and what's wrong. We're just listening to Ted tell the story from his point of view. So I thought that was a really interesting loophole, to make like a non-flawed character, sort of. Generally speaking, something I'd like to add is that I'm a big fan of like shows and stories that have a lot of anti-heroes in them. And I think a lot of people think you can't have funny, lovable, comfortable anti-heroes, and I don't think that's true. For example, like I said, in The Office or Community, I think is a great example where all the characters are anti-heroes. None of them is like not flawed, yet we're still in love with them, we're still rooting for them, and we still like watching them, and we laugh at them, and we feel comfortable with them. But in sitcoms like Friends or How I Met Your Mother, everyone is supposed to be the hero, and then when they make mistakes, it's just, it doesn't sit right with us because they're supposed to be the good people. And so the writers keep having to create these situations where the characters have made mistakes, but it's everyone else's fault. Because it's not justified for the main characters to make mistakes because they're not supposed to be anti-heroes. But I personally really like that sort of like trope. I find it more believable. I find it more comfortable. I find it more justified. And it's just like very real to me. Like Community obviously is like a very surreal show. I'm not calling it realist, but like when you're watching it, you kind of relate to characters a little bit here and there, although they're exaggerated. But in comparison to How I Met Your Mother, I don't relate to anyone. Everyone's super exaggerated, but like I don't really relate to any of them because they just don't live in the real world. They don't have the proper consequences to any of their actions. So yeah, that's what I have to say about How I Met Your Mother. I just rambled for like 20 minutes. Anyways, I don't know what I'm going to talk about next, but I really want to talk about something because this is super fun and meditative for me. So, peace out.